nasty smells, sweat, and irritation. These are the things almost every civilized person would avoid. But for the hard-skinned Mongols, these are unfamiliar words. In today's video, we'll uncover the truth about the Mongols' filthy hygiene practices and reveal their dirtiest secrets. During the time of the Mongols, the availability of everyday essentials such as soap, razors, sanitation, and perfume was quite impossible. Or was it? It may surprise you to know that these items were already present and widely used in many cultures, ranging from the Romans to the Arabs. But when it comes to the Mongols, a nomadic tribe with a mighty empire, their hygiene practices were quite different. Unlike other civilizations, they didn't prioritize cleanliness in the same way. They roamed the vast steppes and rugged terrains, and the Mongols faced challenges in maintaining proper hygiene, or perhaps they chose not to. Now let's delve into the fascinating world of Mongol hygiene, or should we say, the lack thereof. We'll take a closer look at their practices and gain insight into how nasty hygiene played a role in their daily lives. When it came to their dietary habits, the Mongols had a rather peculiar taste for raw and undercooked meat. They didn't mind sinking their teeth into horse meat or other animals without bothering to cook them thoroughly. One popular caricature of Mongol warriors, often called Tatars or Tartars, depicts them tenderizing meat under their saddles as they rode, and then feasting on it in all its raw glory. This image became widespread thanks to the French chronicler Jean de Joinville in the 13th century, who used it to portray the Tartars as uncivilized. However, let's not forget the potential hygiene concerns here. Handling and consuming raw meat, especially in a nomadic lifestyle, can bring about a host of risks. The Mongols surely danced on the edge of gastrointestinal adventure. Coming to eating practices, the Mongols had a unique tradition of communal dining. They would gather around a dish or a bowl filled with delicious treats and dig in. They all ate from the same vessel. A culinary adventure for the taste buds and the immune system, all in one. Picture this, a group of Mongols passing around a single cup or bowl, taking turns sipping and feasting. It was like a game of keep away, but with food and drink. One moment it's within reach, and the next it's swiftly snatched away, teasing the hungry soul. They would sing, dance, and playfully taunt the person waiting for their turn, just to build up the anticipation. But let's not overlook the potential consequences of such communal eating. With each mouthful, they were not just sharing food, but also germs and infections. The Mongols had a good reason for their cautious approach, though. It was a lingering fear of poison among them, so much so that Genghis Khan himself included precautions in his code of law. No one was allowed to partake until the person presenting the food ate first. It was a safety measure to ensure the absence of foul play. So while the Mongols enjoyed their communal feasts and the playful exchanges that accompanied them, we can't help wonder the microbial mingling that took place. Now enough with the food. Let's get to the real nitty-gritty of Mongol hygiene, or should we say, the lack thereof. Imagine roaming the vast steppes and rugged terrain, facing the challenges of a nomadic lifestyle. The Mongols had limited access to water sources, which meant that taking a refreshing bath in a bubbling stream wasn't exactly a daily occurrence. They had to make do with what they had, embracing the concept of dry cleaning with open arms. Dirt, dust, and sweat became their loyal companions, adding a certain rugged charm to their exteriors. Who needs a fancy spa when you can just wear the badge of a true nomad? But let's not stop there. Waste disposal was another fascinating aspect of Mongol life. They didn't have the luxury of sophisticated waste management systems or private restrooms tucked away behind velvet curtains. Oh no, that would be far too civilized for these adventurous souls. Instead, they took a communal approach to the call of nature. Two things troubled William of Rubric when he visited the Mongols. The first was the language barrier, which prevented him from effectively preaching Christianity. The second, however, was how closely to him the Mongols emptied their bowels. When the urge struck, they didn't feel the need to venture far from their companions. No, they preferred to keep it within throwing distance. Imagine the interesting conversations that must have ensued during such moments. Privacy? Well, let's just say it wasn't exactly high on their priority list. So whether it was the limited access to water or their unconventional waste disposal practices, the Mongols faced environmental challenges head-on, leaving their mark quite literally wherever they went. Alright, next up is their clothing and bathing habits. The Mongols had a unique approach to clothing. You see, they weren't exactly fashionistas who changed their outfits every day. No. They believed in making the most of their garments. In fact, they rarely changed clothes at all. Can you imagine the accumulation of dirt and grease? Their hands were often covered in a delightful concoction of grease, fat, dirt, and meat when they ate. And what did they do with all that mess? Oh, they simply wiped it on their already rarely clean clothes. It was like a mobile napkin that never left their side. But fear not, for there was a method to their madness. You see, the Mongols roamed the steppes of Central Asia, where the elements could be harsh. To protect themselves from the unforgiving weather, they had a clever trick up their sleeves. Well, more like on their sleeves. They covered their outer clothing in animal fat and grease, making them water and windproof. Yes, you heard that right. They turned themselves into a walking, talking raincoat. Now let's talk about bathing, or should we say, not bathing. The Mongols had a scarcity of bathing that would make even the most laid-back beach bum raise an eyebrow. They believed in cultural superstitions and had some interesting beliefs surrounding cleanliness. They firmly believed that water was sacred and polluting it was a big no-no. They saw it as a direct offense to the gods, and they weren't about to risk divine retribution. Genghis Khan himself outlawed the act of washing clothes or bathing in running water, and the consequences for breaking this rule? You'd get a sword through the neck. And when it came to washing their hair, the Mongols had an interesting technique. They venerated water and wanted to avoid any potential offense. So here's the deal. They filled their mouths with water and let it trickle onto their hands and hair. That's right, they became their own personal water dispensers. It was a delicate process to prevent any water from going back into the source. Why? Well, legend has it that Genghis Khan decreed execution for anyone who let water touch their face and then return to the water source. Moving on, we stumble upon the delightful world of health and medical practices in the Mongol Empire. Living conditions and limited sanitation practices among the Mongols led to some not-so-pleasant consequences. Picture this, a life on the move, battling the elements, and lacking access to fancy showers or bathtubs. It's no wonder that skin diseases and lice were as common among the Mongols as wild horses on the steppes. Additionally, when illness struck a member of the Mongol household, they took precautions to keep outsiders at bay. Guards were stationed around the dwelling to prevent anyone from entering. Why, you ask? Well, they had a genuine fear of evil spirits or some sneaky wind hitching a ride on unsuspecting visitors. Now, let's talk about some truly inventive medical practices of the Mongols. Gout, a painful condition caused by indulging in excessive eating and drinking, was a common affliction among the Mongols. To treat this ailment, they had a rather unique remedy. Are you ready for it? They would stick the affected body part into a deceased animal or person. Yes, you heard that correctly. If you had gout, they advised you to find the nearest dead horse and give its chest a foot spa treatment. Now, if you couldn't find a horse, don't worry. There was always the option of finding a red-haired child and, well, sticking your foot into their abdomen. Furthermore, when it came to arrow wounds, the Mongols had a rather dedicated approach. As skilled archers, they were no strangers to getting hit by arrows. But fear not, they had a solution. They had a special retainer or servant whose job it was to suck the blood out of the arrow wounds. These brave souls would literally suck the blood out, either swallowing it or spitting it out. In addition to that, if you happened to be a high-ranking official and got injured, the Mongols had a rather peculiar way of helping you heal. They would place you in the open cavity of an ox or water buffalo. They would cut open the belly of one of these magnificent creatures and tuck you inside. It's like being in a cozy, warm, and slightly smelly cocoon. The animal's body heat was believed to provide life-saving warmth. And hey, it must have worked because those lucky individuals would eventually revive. Just another day in the life of a Mongol warrior.